Good morning, good evening, wherever you may be across the nation or around the world. Once again, you are listening to the VMware Community Roundtable podcast. This is podcast number 504. My name is Eric Nilsson, and with me today, I have my co-host, Corey Romero. Today's Wednesday, March 18th, 2020. Welcome to the show. Everybody that's watching, don't forget, if you're on YouTube, we now have a branded YouTube channel. It is called youtube.com/vbarbecue. So vBarbecue, go over there, check out the live stream, and hit the subscribe button. And if you want to get notifications, we do these weekly, you can hit the bell. So thanks a lot for that. And we did push over 100 subscribers last week. So we were able to brand ourselves, and we did brand ourselves vBarbecue, because a couple of years ago, we had the vExpert barbecue, where we roasted the whole pig, and we talk about barbecue in the show. So we thought, what a better way? So it's BARBECUE. That's the Caribbean way to spell barbecue, the original where barbecue was actually invented. So with that, we will start the show. Corey Romero, how you doing today?
I'm doing great, Eric.
Great. I know it's an interesting time. We've had a little bit of different setup. I don't think TalkShoe is recording, so we're live streaming on Zoom and YouTube right now, but we will upload the MP3 to TalkShoe after the show, as sometimes we do. And as you can see, we're all over the place here from a camera view. We are not on the VMware campus. It's shut down. And before we get into the show, which on the show today, we have Mr. Bob Plankers, who's going to be talking about vSphere 7 core features. Bob, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me. It's been a while.
It has been a while, but it's great to see you. We'll talk to you in a bit and talk about the cool things that are in vSphere 7, aside from Project Pacific, because everybody's talking about Project Pacific, and I want to actually get down to the real stuff that helps you run your data center in today's world. So cool. And then before we get to that, we'll swing by Jeff Goodall, who is a special co-host today. Jeff runs a lot of the stuff that happens on the VMware campus. Thought we would have him talk about what's happening with all the VMware campuses and all the remote work that we're doing. So we'll get a little update on the land of coronavirus and how we're adjusting with employees, everybody work from home, that kind of stuff. And we'll do a loop by to Corey. Corey, I know you have some vExpert announcements as well. So let's do Jeff Goodall. Jeff, how's it going?
Very well, Eric. Thank you for having me on your podcast today. It's good to see you, all of you here.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Why don't you tell me, a minute or less, the elevator pitch? Who are you? How long have you been at VMware, and what do you do?
Excellent. Thank you. So I've been at VMware now for a little over 13 years. I am VMware's 411. If I don't know, I know who knows, to answer any of your questions that you might have. I give tours of our beautiful Palo Alto campus. I also have a few programs that I manage for our employees. And I run the conference center out of HTA with a team of incredible people, global meetings and events, and travel.
And the other thing I would say is I put you in the land of social evangelism because you're on the social channels. You're always out there. So what is your Twitter handle? So if people haven't given you a follow, they absolutely should.
Oh, I appreciate that, Eric. My Twitter handle is @Goodall, GOODALL_Jeff. So Goodall_Jeff.
And so I just want to know right up front, did you change your name to Goodall? Because that's just too much how you are. So I just figured you renamed yourself. Goodall. Everything is good with you.
Oh, it's all good. It's all good. During this time that we're in right now, you've got to be able to find some gratitude and something to be grateful for, and live in the moment, live in the present, because there is so much that we can be grateful for. In all honesty, this is going to pass. We're going to get better and better as we move through this as VMware people, vCommunity, and so forth.
Yeah. You know what I would say is, from a nerd, this is like heaven, right? Like, you stay at home, only look at your computer screen. Your boss can't see what you're really doing. So you can play all the Call of Duty or all of the League of Legends you ever wanted to play, as long as you get your job done. So for us, it's kind of like, okay, this is not so bad, right? Look at the bright side.
Agree. Well, so myself, being more of an extrovert, I need people. I need to interact with you. I'm more the touchy-feely side of the human nature and being out there with the public and whatnot. So this is a new learning curve for me, having to interact with people through a screen, a camera, but it still works. It's still good. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's all good.
it is good, and that's all we can do is do that. And so, thanks for coming here. And I know that it's like the campus is shut down. You don't have. We got to reach out to Jeff and get him on the show, because I think you're going to dry up and wither if we don't get you get you. It's like,
Oh, you're
yeah,
wonderful.
yeah,
Yeah. Well,
exactly.
I did spend some time on the campus on Monday, just taking care of a few last minute things. What we're doing is we're switching a lot of our larger meetings over to a virtual platform. So we're not going to see anybody in Elastic Sky or City Hall for quite some time. Plug and play rooms as needed are open and available to be reserved if you are on the campus, but it is discouraged right now. Everything can be done from home. We
Right.
all still have telephones. You can still
Right.
call. You don't need the fancy video equipment and all that to make it work.
So
Safety first.
that I know we're locked down, but that was one of the questions I had. You see in the background, I do have a VMware code banner, but I do have some gear in the podcast studio that I'm like, I wonder if I'm allowed to like sneak in for an hour with my mask on and my gloves and pick up some gear and then get out. Is it completely turned off, or can you still drift in a little bit for
That's a
just
good question. That's a good question. I've been so busy with changing forums for meetings and events that I do not know the current status of
Okay.
that. I do not believe that badge access has been turned off, but I wouldn't recommend going in to
Going
work
anywhere?
or going anywhere unless it's absolutely necessary, as we've been directed to do.
That's why I don't have I have the white mic and I have a little banner, right? Because
Yeah.
that's the way I chose it. Well, I know
Yep.
that you guys are working hard on this building community, and you'll just have to keep us informed with digital
Yeah.
platforms, and you also help bring everybody, the vMug leadership in. We ran a big vMug event on campus just a week or two ago. I guess from a customer visit perspective and trying to keep the business moving, the customer briefing center, all of that, all of the stuff has to start going digital, I assume.
I would assume so as well. So the beautiful Discovery Center is a different entity from what we do
I
in
see.
meetings and events. That's Patty's group over in Hilltop G, and there are other departments that are in marketing that are also they do different events
Right.
and whatnot. Your VM World
Right.
and
Right.
all the way down. So we're all adjusting. We're all learning what works best for us and for our customers and our partners at the moment
Right.
to keep it safe, keep it
Right.
sane, and of
Right.
course, move the business forward. Because with leadership in place, like the leadership that VMware has, this virus is not going to stop us. We're just
Right.
going to get better and better and move forward with it. I mean,
Well, I know that Pat came to leadership and coached us and said, "Hey, we're gonna keep going, right? But we're gonna adjust everything. We're gonna adjust budgets. We're gonna adjust where we're spending to engage with our customers." And so, yeah, I appreciate it.
Yeah,
That's what we're doing,
absolutely. Yeah.
and here
Yeah.
we all are. Okay, Corey Romero, what's happening with vExperts? I know that you're announcing something.
Yeah, wow. We've announced quite a bit of stuff. We've got 7 sub-programs this year for 2020, which is awesome. And yesterday we kicked off the cloud provider sub-program, which we have 2 of the people from the BU who are going to be managing this program. We've got full commitment. And so if you're a vExpert, please go and apply for that. The applications are open now, and they're going to close on March 30th. And then April 13th, we'll announce the awards for those. And heck, if you're not a vExpert, you're doing evangelism about VMware, go to the vExpert.vmware.com, and there's a button on the page that can say notify me when the next application period opens up. And so we're going to open those second half applications in June. And once those open, I'll email you and let you know when it's opening. You can go and do your application and get into the program.
Great. You're keeping busy up there in Utah. This is great for you. I love your
Absolutely.
backdrop. I love your backdrop. It looks like you're sitting in an office, but
yeah.
But you're not. I love Jeff. I love these virtual backdrops. Even you've got I don't know if you're sitting outside or
great?
what is that?
They really are amazing. Well, so I've been spending a lot of
That's
time on
ocean,
social.
ocean and tree line. right?
Yeah, yeah.
It's an aerial view, probably taken with a drone, of some beautiful tropical beach. Padmini posted on social a bunch of VMware branded backgrounds that people can download, that they can use in their Zoom meetings or their Skype meetings. It's just a nice little extra touch to make it more fun. Yeah. So go on to social and get those
Very
if
nice.
you haven't already.
We will definitely go do that. I'm running on an old 2011 laptop that has like an i4, and I went to go set my backdrop on Zoom, and it says, "Sorry, your machine is too old. you're on a toaster." They call that in the gaming world a toaster. So like, I'm just on a toaster that can't handle it. But I love my Mac too much to get rid of it. It still has a CD-ROM drive on it, and all my ports, and I just refuse to go to a new machine. All right, with that, so thanks, Corey. I have one news
absolutely.
announcement that I think is worthy. Getting back to real VMware technical content, which I thought was interesting. In the news, Microsoft announced that they're canceling or getting rid of the MCSA certification, the MCSE certification, and the MCSD certification. So if you run a data center and you want to get your certs, you're not going to be doing it with Microsoft and on-prem certifications. They are moving to role-based certifications in Azure. So that's their certification strategy. They're not going to be certifying things on-prem any longer. So killing off the MCSA, MCSE, and MCSD certification, which makes it interesting. I think we should bring the education guys on and learn what some of the cloud education strategy is from VMware. And then also, I don't think we're going to drop on-prem certification anytime soon because, yeah. Okay, that's my news there. I'm just checking online in chat. Looks like there's maybe an echo on the YouTube live stream. I can't see the YouTube live stream. Oh, here we go. Comments. Can I see comments on YouTube? I don't have comments on YouTube because my YouTube is in German. Sorry about that. We're still ironing out those things. All right, so that's the current status of certifications in Microsoft. Interesting bit of announcements from them this week. So let's get on to our main guest, which I'm excited to talk about, Bob Plankers. Bob Plankers is a senior technical marketing architect out of the CPBU, I believe. Bob, welcome to the show. Why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself? How long have you worked at VMware? Where did you work before, and what do you do?
Sure. Hey, it's been a while since I've been on this call. I used to love this, but then my boss, back in the day, I worked at the UW-Madison for 23 years, and I joined VMware December 2018. And so I've been around, 15, 16 months now. And I've been enjoying it. It's really interesting to see how the sausage is made, as many people put it. I'm in the cloud platform business unit. We deal with vSphere, VMware Cloud on, I'd say AWS, but it's on all 6 of the major clouds now. That sort of stuff. We're the core of all of the SDDC. People like to forget about us. That's how well we do. We like to do our job so that people forget about us down in the bowels of the infrastructure and things like that. But
yeah, I kind of don't want people to forget because
I don't either.
A company shouldn't forget about the core platform that everybody uses, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes marketing gets excited about all the new bells and whistles and all the thought leadership stuff, and we actually forget to come back to core. Right?
Yeah, well, and we're dealing with that right now. The security business unit, which Carbon Black and all that stuff, they're all about the intrinsic security, and that we're like, hey, don't forget about us down here, and so.
Yeah, and if you actually look at it, like 99% of our business runs down at the core level, right? And that's how they actually run things. So it's good
a lot
for
of
us
it
to,
on premises, like you were talking about. Right. Microsoft going all in on Azure. That doesn't surprise me, but there's a lot of on-premises stuff. On-premises is not going away anytime soon. And so
this reminds me of a moment that Steve Jobs from Apple had to make a few years ago, somewhere around 2006 or whatever, where everybody told him, yeah, you can't live in the laptop business. There's no way Apple can survive there. Windows and PCs are like $400 PCs, and the shift was just to super cheap clone laptops from Asia, and he went, yeah, I don't care. I'm gonna focus on core because 99% of the business actually still uses computers to do computing. I'm gonna keep keyboards. I'm gonna make them beautiful. I'm gonna invest there. And it was absolutely the right move to make because here we are. And I think from our standpoint, we're in that same inflection. We want to do really super cool Kubernetes and all the great stuff, but we also have to remember that 99% of our business still runs in the data center, and the data center is still super important to people.
Well, and that's the power of the Kubernetes stuff that that's coming out here is that you can draw on all of what you've built already. That we paid a lot of attention to the way developers want to use Kubernetes, but also how organizations are already structured. They've already got governance processes. They've already got vSphere. And, can we make it easy for them to just add Kubernetes on top of it? And the answer is yes. And so there's the excitement, the exuberance around vSphere with Kubernetes and all of that stuff is well warranted. But I do very much appreciate talking about the core sorts of things as well. And so how do you want
Jeff Goodall, I'll just jump over there. When we get interview candidates into VMware, are they still, could you get a sense of whether we're still hiring for core stuff as well?
Well, the engineering team does a different new hiring orientation process that's more geared towards the technical side of things. It depends upon what job you're coming in for. What we see with new hire orientation, that's every Monday.
How many are we bringing in every week when we're talking about people coming into hire? And what do we do now?
An average of 20
right.
people. And it's moved to a virtual environment, just like everything else right now.
Cool. Right.
But we're still engaging, which is amazing.
Great. Okay, thanks. So Bob, before we get into vSphere 7 Core, I got to do a shout out. Like, you come from University of Wisconsin-Madison, right?
Yeah.
My son went there, so I've always followed you and knew you were there and chatted with you every time I got to talk to you. And then my son married somebody from Milwaukee, right? And I did work in Urbana, Illinois, at a supercomputer research center where we did Unix kernel stuff. And then we used to take road trips up to Madison because we sold 64-bit real-time mini computers into some of the computer science guys. And there was a guy named David Parter that I used to do road trips with. You knew David Parter out of Wisconsin. So I just got a shout out to all the University of Wisconsin Badgers, right? So there's history there. And I love that whole part of the state. And certainly the university, have been there many times. So shout out there. And are you still out of Wisconsin, or where are you based?
My if you can see my background, I don't know what the YouTube stream looks like, but if you can see my background, it is a lovely photographic background in my basement at the moment. I'm building a new home office out off of my garage actually at the moment. But I'm just south of Madison, Wisconsin, McFarland, Wisconsin, thriving metropolis of more a village of McFarland. But I'm still up here. I still talk to the UW folks, all my friends and former coworkers. And
the memory that I do have is this 64-bit mini computer that we did. One of the guys got one delivered to Wisconsin, and in his basement he had his little data center, and then he heated his house from the heat exchange from the. Just
funny, my home lab here is actually heating my new office space at the moment. Keeps it at a comfortable 68 degrees all winter long. So.
Yeah. And that's why I got back to the nerd sequenced at home. I have a home lab. I actually put it upstairs, right? I have a jacuzzi room. I have a pinball machine room. It's like, the only thing I can say is that in America, we have big spaces, we have basements. And so being sequestered at home isn't such a bad thing versus if you're in Europe and Asia where, you live outside more and you live in the city, right? So this is not.
That's going to be hard. So this whole virus thing is just like a normal day for me, except I've got more kids running around than usual. Kids
exactly.
And wives,
Right. We have to tell everybody to be quiet, right? As Jeff said
wear my
earlier.
Sportscaster headset here. So.
Right, exactly. All right, so let's move on to vSphere 7 non-project specific things.
Go ahead.
I have a laundry list of feature sets, but why don't we pick a couple of them that you think are interesting? I know that you work
Sure.
on the team. So what are your kind of favorite vSphere 7, core features that you think are cool?
So there's a few different things. The stuff that I think is going to be really interesting. vSphere 6.7 introduced has a really nice in the vSphere client itself has got the developer center, and then it's got a code capture function that's in there. That's not. We need to publicize this more, I think, because people want to automate, people want to script, or they don't know how to get started. Well, if you can do it in the vSphere client, in the HTML5 client, then then the code capture thing can record it and give you all the commands in Power CLI. We've also added,
Oh,
well, it gives it
I
six
did
seven.
not know this.
Yeah, 6.7 gives you Power CLI. 7.0 gives you vRealize orchestrator actions. It gives you JavaScript. It gives you Python, and it gives you Go as well. So if you want to automate it, if you can do it in the client itself, you can get a code sample to script it. That's very, very powerful, and I don't think it's as publicized as it ought to be. The other thing about vSphere 7 is that we really took the criticism, feedback, I guess, it was constructive criticism, the feedback that, hey, you don't have enough APIs. We didn't have APIs for nearly as many things as we should. Now the API coverage is something like 95%. There's REST APIs for everything. Every presentation you'll see, every technical deck that you see is going to have mention of APIs for things. It's a big deal because we really believe in automation, and it's also how the rest of the ecosystem is going to interact with vSphere moving forward. We're getting past the idea of humans going in and pushing buttons and things like that, and we want to script it and things like that.
So have you seen any of these code samples? Do they just like give you a segment of code that says, here's where you did a click on this action? Or does
Yep.
it actually write out the whole bit of code following what you're doing with your mouse?
It writes out the whole bit of code, and you can just take that and paste it into whatever you want to work in. If you want to work in Visual Code or whatever, I use it all the time. And I'm not the strongest programmer scripter. It's been a long time since I've been a developer, and I don't want to look up what the command is or what the object class
It's
is
just
or all
work.
that stuff.
Right.
I just go and do it, and then I see what it is, and then I can just extrapolate from there.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Originally, when I created Big Admin in the days at Sun, it was an administration site, and it was just a code sharing site, right? Because nobody wants to
Big
code
admin's
from
cool like
scratch,
that.
right?
Yeah,
Nobody wants to code from scratch. So here, upload your code snippets. But that's awesome. I did not know that they just allow you to grab mouse actions and then do code.
And like I said, that's been around since 6.7, but 7.0 got way more powerful, and
They just added more languages.
more languages. So you want to do Python? Do Python. That's cool.
Right.
Whatever. You can do Python from a Linux box, all that stuff. And so that's very powerful.
I wonder if they're gonna integrate in like REST API calls as well, like, or
Oh,
if I
absolutely.
want to
Yeah,
build it into a web app.
Yep, those are all in there. And even if what you're
Nice.
doing is not covered by those languages or whatever, you can see the URLs, you can see the APIs, you can see all of that stuff, so that you can just use it wherever you need to. It's just a dynamic cheat sheet, if you will. And I don't consider it cheating. That's actually not a great way to put that. Like, it's a great way to just get your job done and automate some stuff and move forward with your life.
Yeah, that's great. I'm gonna have to go get up to 7. I don't have 7 in my home lab yet, but I'm gonna have to go play with that. I didn't even know that
Keep an eye
existed.
out for it.
Yeah, and then tweet them all out. I'm gonna go grab
Oh
code
yeah,
snippets and
So other stuff. Let's talk about other stuff. My coworker and friend Niels Hagurt, he's on my team, and he put together a whole mind map thing that I'm looking at here. I'm just going to walk around it. Security, certificate management got a lot easier. We got a lot of criticisms about that, a lot of feedback about how difficult it is to deal with certificates. And it turns out the feedback is half from inside of VMware as well. So cleaned a lot of that stuff up. There's one certificate per host. Now we got rid of a lot of the solution certs and things like that, things that were making life complicated. We don't feel that it's not a decrease in security or anything like that. It's just simplifying it. There's something called the vSphere Trust Authority that's helping to drive some more infrastructure level attestation, making sure that hosts are running the right versions of code, things like that. But out of all of the security features that are out there, identity federation is probably going to be the biggest one. We've been joking, and it's not really a joke. We've kind of been joking around that it's probably going to be as popular or more popular than the Kubernetes news, because identity federation lets you connect vSphere to, to start with, the goal is to any OIDC or OAuth2 enabled identity provider. To start with here, it's ADFS, Microsoft Active Directory Federation Services, but the roadmap's got other services on it now as well. It allows you to just offload most of your authentication. You're still going to have the SSO domain there for sort of break fix, break glass, oh my God, it's all broken sort of situations. Things are down, whatever. That sort of stuff happens in the IT operations world. That's still going to be there. But you can take all of your users and offload them to your enterprise IDPs, your enterprise identity providers, and your enterprise governance processes around people management and things like that, and just get out of that business. vSphere admins, that was always my least favorite thing when I was a vSphere admin, was dealing with users and roles and permissions and all that stuff. Offload what you can, send it back to the org.
Yeah. Makes sense. Makes sense.
It does. It's also great for compliance stuff. So I do a lot of security and compliance related stuff, and it's great for compliance because it sends the compliance auditor somewhere else completely. Hey, go talk to that team over there, and you can flee then. Let's see, lifecycle management, completely rethought. Update manager, and host profiles, and all of that stuff are really getting revamped, reimagined. How do we do more at a deeper level too? Can we, there's firmware updates. We can manage firmware updates for certain types of server hardware now. That's going to be really powerful. We can better host profiles has evolved as well to be more powerful in that regard, be able to control things at a deeper level. Update planners, you can ask it, so you can say, hey, I want to go from 7.0 to 7.9 or whatever. This is just hypothetical.
Sure.
I have no idea what the next version is going to be called. I want to go from X to Y. Tell me everything in my infrastructure that is incompatible, or if I'm, how much work is this going to be? And it'll tell you, hey, you need to bring NSX up to this level. You need to bring VROPS up to whatever. It knows all that stuff now. It has known that stuff. We're just now exposing that sort of thing to users in a very useful way, trying to get people, better able to patch, better able to upgrade. Because if you upgrade, you can use these new features. You can take advantage of your service and support contracts, that sort of thing. So.
And I guess from a days administrator perspective, once you get your infrastructure set up, these are kind of like day two operational efficiencies, just to make your life, easier to run your data center day after day.
Yeah, when I was a vSphere admin, I used to love asking vendors, why do you hate me? Why do you hate me? Why are you making my life more difficult? I asked storage vendors this a lot, and it really drives that question, put more nicely, is it really drives a lot of what we're doing around the vSphere admin, trying to make it easy to do the right thing, trying to make it easy to be secure, trying to make the right things the defaults, that sort of thing in vSphere. Out of the box, it should let people do their jobs easily. So Lifecycle Manager is going to be a big part of that. There's also vCenter server profiles where we can export and import configuration from vCenter, and it can inherit different vCenter. vCenters can inherit configurations from other ones, so that'll be really interesting to see how people use that. That was something that larger environments have asked for. So other stuff. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just getting on chat. So sorry. I was getting chat going, and I got chat on my iPhone, so I can actually ask some questions.
Yeah,
Right.
Storage. So there's some core storage improvements. I think the biggest thing, and we're burying the lead, to borrow a publishing term, in this case. there's an improvement to core vSphere storage where Windows Server failover clustering, something that's in use for database servers and web servers and all over the place, doesn't need RDMs anymore. You can use VMDKs for it. It's supported. It's supported by Microsoft. It's supported by us, and it works. And that's going to be huge for simplifying an environment. Get rid of RDMs. You don't have to have that level of complexity anymore. And I think people are really going to like that. That comes with VM hardware version 17. We're getting really far up there in the version numbers now. 17 is the new hardware version. It's got new features. Intel has got a security technology called Software Guard extensions, rather, SGX. And we're exposing that to workloads. If they want to use that, they can use that. There are some design implications. You can't. It basically, SGX is a secure space and memory that an application can use to, and the hypervisor and the guest OS can't see into it anymore. And that's really powerful from a risk management perspective. You know, that application can keep secrets now, and it's just between the hardware and the application. You know, I think it was Ben Franklin had said that 3 people can keep a secret if 2 are dead. You know, this is sort of the technological implication or implementation of that, rather.
All right, I got a couple questions on
what's up?
On chat here. Just going to take a look at it because people are chatting on the YouTube channel.
Sure.
It's hard to get to. And when is IS vSphere 7 going to GA, available for download? I don't know how to answer
the official press release, and something you should know about VMware if you deal with the VMware ecosystem, is we will never, because of our own rules around revenue and things like that, it always has to be in the same financial quarter as when we announce it. So our year starts on February 1st. So our press release says it will go GA by May 1st. I am not at liberty to say otherwise, but keep your eyes open. So
another question: is it easier to push a cert from internal Windows domains?
Easier to push a cert from internal Windows domains. If you mean the certificate authority, probably not. It's still the same process. There's just a heck of a lot less certificates now. That if you're doing full custom certs, then you only have 1 or 2 to deal with, rather than like 400. So.
All right. The rest of the questions I can't really apply to a thread, so I'm going to move on with that. So if you want to ask questions on YouTube, I'm watching them now, so
okay, cool.
Good for that. A couple things that I've read about that I found interesting is assignable hardware direct to VMs.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. I was working through, and so with VM hardware version 17, we've also got a watchdog thing that helps with clustering, helps with the ability to detect if a cluster node has failed and do some stuff. We've got PTP, precision time protocol support now. We've got better vMotion. vMotion takes a heck of a lot less time and doesn't stun VMs very much. In fact, Niels has got a blog post. If you're not reading blogs.vmware.com/vSphere, please do. He's got a blog post as of right now up on there about all the new vMotion stuff. Along with that comes DRS. DRS has been rejiggered so that it can better serve workloads and better place workloads as well. With hardware version 17, that assignable hardware comes into play, and that's basically virtualizing PCI devices. So you've got a GPU, you've got an FPGA, you've got some sort of, maybe you've got some. Well, GPUs are a great example.
Yeah, GPUs, right? Tony Foster's out there somewhere, and he would give you a woohoo on that one.
Yeah, like GPUs, they're the new hotness. AI, ML, VDI. Turns out VDI is sort of important nowadays with all this coronavirus stuff going on. The idea that you can take a VM and you're virtualizing that. You used to just pass the GPU through. And it was just a pass-through piece of hardware. You couldn't vMotion the VM anymore because of that pass-through. You couldn't do
right. You were locked on that. As soon as you went pass-through, you were done.
That's a real operational problem, right? You know, I can't vMotion something. I can't patch my environment now because I've got a VM that's pinned to a particular host and a particular piece of hardware. And it was fine, but we can do better, and we have done better now with assignable hardware. So that gets a virtual device, virtual address assigned to it, and then the VM can and you can set up rules saying that, hey, this VM needs access to certain types of hardware, FPGAs, GPUs, these types of GPUs, and then when it vMotions, it can just reattach the VM to that a similar piece of hardware on a different,
almost like tag groups or something to your hardware, so that you can just do that.
And Niels would probably correct me here, but that's the general gist of it. Niels, and there's going to be blog posts. He's got a blog post coming out in a week about all of this stuff. Deeply technical. You know, Niels, he's deeply technical. And I mean, I joke that he literally wrote the book on some of the stuff. And so he'll talk about it more in depth. But the gist of it is you can vMotion things with GPUs, and they're not pinned to hardware anymore.
I read a pretty good article too on the stunning large VMs, right? That used to take, I don't know how many seconds, but maybe 60 seconds you would when you went to go vMotion
the workload
a large
would be
VM.
dead for all that, like the workload is just non-responsive, and that's a problem, and now the new way to do vMotion, the new way we're doing it, better copying, we're compressing the bitmaps, we're not copying as much data anymore. Some of this is enabled by new hardware, new underlying server hardware technologies as well. We can take advantage of things that Intel and AMD have built into the hardware for us, and but it's just a better.
It was actually pretty impressive. There was a blog article, maybe it was on the vSphere blog, blogs.com/vSphere, where they actually had diagrams of the page tables and then how they were stunning it, and they showed you a 6 dot, how it did it, and then 7 dot. And it was super cool to see, down at the OS level, how they were accomplishing that, actually making cache page tables, pretty interesting, right? To see the difference, and that's going to, it takes it from 60 seconds down to like 500 milliseconds. Some pretty sharp time, which was pretty cool. Yep.
We're trying to really help out, the VMware campus. SAP is across the street, right? They've got the sort of model for big VMs. The SAP HANA VMs and stuff like that tend to be pretty large, and turns out they're the core of your business, and you don't really like having them stunned for 60 seconds while they're moving around in that. So they've been a great case, and everyone's going to benefit from this. This is not just monster VMs. This is all the little ones too. If vMotion, if anybody noticed back in my days as a vSphere admin, once in a while somebody would notice a vMotion happening, and that should all go away with 7. So.
Okay, question in real time here. Only GPUs, or can we use fiber channel cards on hardware pinning?
Ooh, that's a really good question. I don't know. We should, Niels will likely answer that question in his blog post, but how about this? I will make a note for myself, and I will make sure that we address it. Do we know who asked that question?
Sure. It was Graham Mitchell.
Okay.
Yep. So good question. Thank you for that one. Other things I've read about, there's the classic, now we can support, I forgot, I don't have the numbers here, 25,000 VMs versus 15,000 or some number like that. So they've pushed the envelope on capacity again.
We're always trying to be more efficient with memory and our CPU usage. We do a lot of work on performance profiling. One of the reasons that we, so at VMworld, it was announced that containers are something like 8% faster on ESXi than they are just on Linux direct. And, that's just due to the work that we do for scheduling and efficiency with memory and all of that. And that's both in vCenter server, that's at ESX, the ESX layer, with storage, all of that sort of thing. And we're always watching for that. And so we can always bump those numbers up a little bit.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting when people ask, how could that possibly be? And the answer is because you run an operating system, right? If you have the hypervisor underneath the operating system, you can actually do things more efficiently than the operating system can. And now it becomes a technology war. Who's actually smarter at resource utilization, the operating system or the hypervisor? And then you got to go, well, how much of it is written in assembler, right? Well, the operating system is only 10% written in assembler, or 8%. Linux, that's what they do. They wrote an assembly level to be really efficient. How much assembler is in ESXi, right? And we went to a custom OS back in 2008, 2009, where we used to run ESX in a Linux kernel. Then we just wrote our own kernel, right? And so
it's 100% our code now,
right. And so when you look at efficiencies of CPU utilization, then who has tighter relationships to AMD and Intel, where they're building new features in the CPU to be able to be more effective at doing this? And then if we're deriving architectural changes down at the CPU level, this is where when you bump it back up the stack, you can say, oh, actually it runs faster on an ESXi, than it does sitting on an operating system.
Yeah, and we can also play, it's a virtualization environment. We can also play tricks underneath it. EVC, extended vMotion compatibility, something, and again, it's like the developer center and code capture, not widely publicized, but EVC can play tricks underneath by smoothing out the differences for vMotion. We can also do some really interesting things when it comes to CPU vulnerabilities. Those are still coming out. We saw some announcements recently. We started seeing some announcements about AMD as well. There's no CPU you can buy right now that is not vulnerable to something. And we can play tricks based on, because we own that stack. We've got a good control over what's going on there. We can play tricks underneath to help our users, help our customers, and help their workloads figure a lot of the stuff out.
Yeah, that's great. So a great new release. Other thing that I talked about last week, I think just mentioned it, that I first, there's vExpert blogs. I'll do a shout out to all the vExperts that debug. There are like 40 or 50 blogs out there. So you can go to blogs.vmware.com/vExpert, and on there, Corey has a post of all the blogs aggregated up. I've been clicking through and reading a couple of them. Just every week, I just go through and read another one. There's like 50, so it's taking me the time to grab that. One of the things I picked up on one of the blogs was let's see, DRS time snapshots went from 5 minutes down to a minute now. So even on disaster recovery,
more granular
clock.
Are you talking DRS or DR, like the replication?
I think DRS, but I don't know. We should Google that.
Yeah, well, doing things more quickly, being able to respond to changes in workloads. DRS2 has gotten more granular like that as well. Not only does it consider a lot more factors in where it places stuff, but it does it faster. It does it more often, so that if a workload changes, it can take action sooner.
And somebody mentioned to me that it has actually been 1.5 years since we've done a major release of vSphere, or some number like that, slightly longer than previous releases. And they were pinning it back to maybe because we're bringing Project Pacific in with Kubernetes, that it extended the cycle a little bit longer, which means that the vSphere engineers were building these features, the core features, all along that journey, waiting for Pacific to kind of get done and then release. So it's actually good.
The release process, our release managers here at VMware are unsung heroes for coordinating these sorts of things. Coordinating, it's like cooking a giant dinner where you have to have the vegetables come out at the same time as your turkey, as the stuffing, as all the gravy needs to be done. You got to keep it hot, whatever came out first. Is the pie ready? Is the pie cool? Thanksgiving dinner here, at least in the US, tends to be a big dinner like that.
Right.
And vSphere is like that as well. Big dinner, all these pieces are ready. The upshot is they don't go bad if you let them sit there for a little while, but they've got to get it all timed so that it's ready to release all at once. Help anything that might be struggling, figure out names for things, figure out documentation. Naming things just on its own is one of the trickiest things, because all the names in the world are taken at this point.
So just to tie that analogy back to vBarbecue, it's kind of like baked beans. They actually get a little bit better if you let them sit for a day or two, because everything gets to soak in. So getting that whole dinner organized, right, there's a lot of pieces to it now, right? And now throw in Pacific with Kubernetes in there, throw in Heptios building architectures for the data center to do this, and it's an amazing feat. Right.
It is an amazing feat. And then, and it's not done. It's never done. And so, we're going to release it, and then it'll go GA. People will start using it, and people will have feedback about it. And something that I really want people to take away from this whole thing is that if you don't like something, if you think of an improvement, if you think you see something that could be better, tell us about it. Find an official way to tell us. Tell your account execs, tell a product manager, tell me, whoever, find an official way. Don't just complain about it on Reddit. Find an official way to tell us about this, because we can get that back. And, especially people who are using these technologies out in the field, out in real life environments, your feedback is very powerful. And so, let us have it. You let us know what you think, and so that we can make a product, help us help you. We want to make a product that's better suited to what you're up to.
Yeah, and I think that's the reality, that once you start to engage with us, right, whether it's Corey or Bob or Jeff Goodall or anyone else, see if we can get Jeff to look at the camera. Hard to say. He's petting his dog, but he's been very patient hanging out for this whole podcast. Got to give him. I'm going to give you a vBarbecue.
I'm getting educated here.
At the end, Jeff, I'm going to ask you a barbecue question. So you got about 5 more minutes here or 3 more minutes to figure out, what's your barbecue spin for the day? Like, what's your favorite barbecue? But back to you, Bob. When all of us, VMware and specifically, when you talk culture, I mean, we are actually a really good culture. I came from Sun back, now 12, 13, 14 years ago, where Sun was almost a no, prove it to me kind of culture, where VMware is a, wow, show me, this is great. Tell me how we can do better. Right.
Yeah.
It is that culture here.
I agree. And that's been one of the interesting things, because, coming from public sector is definitely a show me, sort of thing.
Prove it.
Prove it. And then it still might be no, just cause, and the VMware is definitely different in that regard. And so, so often I'll ask somebody will say, hey, this is broken, or this isn't quite what we need it to be. It's 80% of the way there. And I'll ask them, did you file a support request? Did you file a feature request with your account team? And they're like, I didn't even know I could do that. You can, please do, So.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we're coming up to the end of the show. I know we got a little bit of a late start, but I know everybody's got timelines and meetings to go to. Now that we're at this virtual environment, I mean, we can just book meetings like crazy because nobody has to walk anywhere. So because Bob, I'll hit you first. I don't know if you get to ever barbecue in the wintertime or do anything up there, but you got any favorite barbecue that you like, or do you even barbecue?
Do I barbecue?
Yeah.
I tend to be more of a consumer of barbecue than a creator of barbecue at this point. I do enjoy slow roasting a pork butt sometimes, or pork shoulder. Put it in my oven at 225 and then forget about it for 16 hours, that sort of thing. But
do they have barbecue cheese curds up there? I don't.
Well, you can dip. I'm sure they do. Smoked cheese curds are actually pretty delicious. So I think.
Oh my gosh, I'm getting hungry.
That's California. We don't call barbecue unless it's smoked. Just so you know. That's
well, and I think that's going to be my next acquisition here, is a smoker.
A smoker.
That's my style.
I got a smoker and used it like 3 times, and all my neighbors came out with fire buckets going, what's on, is your house burning down? So it's just, Palo Alto is too small a neighborhood kind of place to be smoking very often. Jeff Goodall, I'll throw back to you. Jeff, barbecue, do you ever barbecue? Are you a vegetarian? Do you eat green leaf? I just somehow think that you're sitting barbecuing broccoli or something like that. But what's your barbecue story?
No, I'm all around the world. I love different kinds of poultry and beef and whatnot. But I you kept talking barbecue, and I kept visualizing chicken with the messiest, spiciest sauce. I
You're a
just love
saucy kind of guy. You like
I love
the
the
very
sauce.
wet,
Oh,
saucy thing.
absolutely. Spicier the better. Yeah. I, I got the occasional grilled fish. I do like to do the healthy thing. But oh man, chicken. Give me some
Nice.
chicken.
Nice wet
Yeah.
chicken. I gotta say, that's how I got introduced to barbecue, and I didn't even understand rubs and dry barbecue for the first 20 years of my adult life. It wasn't really like 7 years ago that I realized that barbecue wasn't just a wet sauce, that you can actually
There
smoke
you
things
go.
and have a dry rub, that kind of thing.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate being on the show, and I also appreciate Bob and educating me on the incredible product vSphere 7 and all the features that are coming out new and updated. And I would like to say I'm kind of excited about a few features in the meetings and events world too. I mean, we're talking about doing a virtual Turtle Day and a few other things to keep people at home, occupied and busy, not just with meetings and work and whatnot, but we got to remember we got to keep having fun too. We work hard at VMware, but we also play hard too. And I want to thank you for letting me be on your show today. It was great.
Yeah, I think that that's a great one. We should have a virtual camera when we're going to bring it back out of the winter. I know they're still probably sleeping at this point, but maybe they're out. I don't think so yet. But it would be
Well, I
cool
have
to
a
have
surprise for
a
you,
turtle
Eric.
cam. Yeah.
I got a surprise for you. This 7 years project that I've been trying to get in place, scratching, begging, and pleading. We finally had the team that this year it's up there. It's hanging on the bridge between Prom A and Prom D. There is a turtle cam that is being tested right now. Talk about timing. It's focused on the pond, that big boulder on the south side. It's
Nice.
running right now.
Where they always
So
sun
stay
themselves.
tuned.
So yeah. So when we launch this, the turtles come back and we do a big celebration, probably be a very virtual celebration. You have a turtle cam. Guys, you heard it here on the community podcast from Jeff
We
Goodall.
have a cam.
Turtle cam is
We
coming.
We have a turtle cam. This is our community's cam. That includes you, Eric, everyone that
Sweet.
wants to see it. We're gonna have some fun. Yeah.
Fantastic. Bob Plankers, thanks a lot for joining us. We
for having
appreciate it. Next week, we got another show. I don't know who is on next week. It's 5:05. Give me a second. I think it is going to be, who is it? Next week. Next week, we got Emad Benjamin, Director of Cloud Architecture. He's going to come talk about cloud infrastructure and how you can build an app on top of SDKs for cloud architecture. So that should be a good podcast next week. And we got a couple more lined up. Test Drive. If you've heard of Test Drive, there's a guy named Rory who runs the Test Drive infrastructure. We're going to give all the experts Test Drive accounts, free Test Drive accounts that will be permanent. So we're working with Corey on that. So he's going to come the 20, I think it's sometime early April. So stay tuned. We're going to be running lots of virtual live stream code events. We've done call for virtual papers, and we're going to spin up some virtual code events and just run them because we can't do the meetups anymore. So watch for Kripa's announcement. We got code coaches going on. So lots of virtual activity going to be happening over the next year. Bob Plankers, thanks a lot for being here. And we will get you on sooner than 3 years.
Yeah, it has been a while. Thank you for having me. Thanks, Jeff. You're always very kind. Thanks, Corey. Good to see you, man.
Absolutely. You as well.
Thank you, Corey, Bob, and Eric. Thank you.
And big thank you to Julia Klaus, who is
Julia.
behind the scenes trying to make all of this stuff work in a home environment.
Julia.
So appreciate all the work. And we will upload this live stream to TalkShoe immediately after we're done here. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
All right, we're just gonna stop video and see you later.